quiet heart of Buckingham Palace, beyond the velvet ropes and gilded halls, lies a room few have ever glimpsed. The vault of Queen Elizabeth II, not the crown jewels, those public symbols of monarchy worn only on the grandest of occasions, but another, far more secret collection, a treasure trove of jewels that were never meant to be seen. Some were gifts bestowed upon her in quiet moments by heads of state, family, or lovers long forgotten by history. Others were heirlooms, inherited over centuries, carrying whispers of scandal, love, and rebellion. The vault itself is deceptively simple. Thick oak doors reinforced with steel, a lock known only to a handful of trusted aides, and a climate-controlled interior designed to preserve gemstones in their absolute perfection. Inside, velvet trays cradle rubies the size of walnuts, sapphires like drops of midnight, and diamonds so flawless they seem to contain their own light. Emeralds glimmer like fragments of the forest, and pearls, strung together with the precision of master craftsmen, reflect generations of royal restraint and sophistication. Yet, what makes these jewels remarkable is not merely their size or brilliance, but their stories. The lives they touched, the secrets they witnessed, the hands that never dared to wear them in public. There is, for instance, a sapphire necklace, rumoured to have belonged to a mistress of Charles II, a jewel smuggled through wars and marriages, finally arriving in Elizabeth's possession with a quiet note: "To keep or not to keep, as your conscience decides." Such items were never worn to state functions. To do so would have risked opening old wounds or revealing alliances best left in shadows. Queen Elizabeth II's taste in jewellery was meticulous, almost surgical. She understood the language of gemstones better than most understand words. Rubies spoke of power, sapphires of wisdom, emeralds of secrecy. When she selected a piece to wear, it was never random. The hidden vault, then, was not simply a collection, it was a diary of decisions never publicly disclosed. Each jewel, tucked into its velvet bed, held a narrative waiting to be decoded. A bribe refused, a romance concluded, a betrayal averted. Among the most fascinating of the collection is a ring known only as the Widow's Tear. Its origins are murky, lost in the chaos of early 18th century European courts. The gem, a black diamond, appears almost ordinary at first glance, but under candlelight it reflects a ghostly spectrum, an iridescent shimmer that seems to mimic grief itself. Courtiers whispered that it was worn by women in mourning, cursed or blessed, depending on who told the story. Elizabeth never wore it publicly, though she would occasionally glance at it in the vault, her expression unreadable, as if consulting with the centuries. The vault is also home to experimental pieces, jewellery designed but never finalised. Some contain innovations lost to time, sapphires cut with hidden chambers to conceal miniature portraits, rubies engraved with microscopic messages, pearls strung in patterns that map royal lineages. These are pieces of potential, works of art that might have been held back for reasons known only to the Queen. They are silent witnesses to imagination constrained by duty, beauty restrained by protocol. And yet, in all this secrecy, the Queen maintained a subtle dialogue with the world. Occasionally, a hidden gem would surface, a sapphire brooch here, a diamond pendant there, and the public would marvel, unaware of the centuries of untold history resting just out of sight. For those with eyes trained to see beyond mere sparkle, these jewels told stories louder than words. They spoke of strategy, of negotiation, of moments when silence was more powerful than speech. The vault is more than a repository. It is a sanctuary of memory. As we explore it further, we will uncover jewels whose tales are stranger than fiction, and secrets more delicate than the finest strands of pearls. These are the treasures she never wore, the stories hidden in plain sight behind the serene face of Queen Elizabeth II, waiting for the world to finally understand the depth of their significance. Among the vault's most enigmatic treasures are the jewels of forbidden love. Each carries a weight not measured in carats, but in the whispered passions of history. One such piece is the St. James ruby parure, a set of ruby earrings, a necklace, and a matching bracelet, originally commissioned by a secret lover of George IV. The rubies themselves are massive, deep crimson, almost pulsing under light. Yet their story is not merely of wealth, it is of secrecy. George's lover, a woman of extraordinary influence yet socially constrained, could never display them publicly, and centuries later, Elizabeth inherited the parure, storing it as a testament to passion constrained by protocol. Then there is the emerald veil, a delicate diadem of tiny emeralds threaded into silver filigree. Its origins trace back to a clandestine romance between a European princess and a diplomat, forbidden by state. The emeralds were said to reflect hidden desires, and the diadem's design allowed it to drape like a whisper over the wearer's hair. Queen Elizabeth II never adorned it at court. To do so would have been an anachronism, revealing connections long erased from public memory. Yet, in private moments, aides whispered that she would sometimes handle the piece, turn it in her fingers, and smile, perhaps in recognition of love's enduring, quiet power. The vault also conceals a bracelet called the chameleon chain, an intricate link of opals and diamonds. The opals are uniquely iridescent, capable of catching light in ways that seem to change their color based on the wearer's mood. Legend claims it was a gift from a European queen to a young Elizabeth herself, a subtle warning about the mutable nature of human affection and loyalty. She never wore it, but its presence in the vault functioned as a symbol. Even royalty is not immune to the caprices of the heart. Not all pieces in the vault speak of romantic love. Some hint at political entanglements hidden behind courtesies and public ceremonies. The sapphire of supplication, a single, flawless oval sapphire mounted on a delicate platinum ring, was said to have been presented to Elizabeth as a token of gratitude by a foreign dignitary whose position was precarious. Wearing it publicly could have been interpreted as favor or alliance, so it remained locked away, a silent artifact of diplomacy's shadowy, intricate game. Perhaps most haunting is the obsidian pendant, a teardrop-shaped stone said to be cursed or blessed, with the ability to mirror the darkest secrets of the one who gazes into it. Its origins are obscure, rumored to have come from a Venetian merchant whose dealings touched multiple royal courts. The Queen never wore it, not even in private. It was one of those items whose mere presence in the vault served as a reminder. Power and discretion are inseparable, and even the most beautiful jewel can demand vigilance. In this hidden collection, the craftsmanship is extraordinary. Each jewel is not only a stone and a setting, but a cipher. The careful cut of a sapphire might conceal a portrait no larger than a pinhead. A ruby may hide an engraved date, only readable under a magnifying lens. Pearls might be arranged in sequences corresponding to forgotten events in royal history. For Elizabeth, the jewels were more than decoration. They were a language, and she was fluent in every facet and clasp. The vault thus becomes a narrative, a ledger of love, desire, power, and restraint. Each gem tells a story not only of its original owner, but of Elizabeth herself, who understood that some treasures are meant not to dazzle the eyes of the public, but to serve as private witnesses to history's delicate truths. The Queen's restraint, the choice not to wear these jewels, transformed them from mere ornaments into guardians of memory, symbols of the discipline and secrecy that define monarchy as much as crown or scepter. And so the jewels that she never wore are more than jewelry. They are confidants, witnesses, and sometimes silent advisors. They hint at a world of intimacy and discretion, of choices made behind closed doors, of histories that could have reshaped nations had they been revealed. As we continue to explore, we encounter stones that murmur warnings, whisper tragedies, and radiate triumphs, each one a fragment of a story too complex for public display. Among all the treasures in the hidden vault, it is the diamonds that command the most reverence. Not merely for their brilliance or size, but for the silent gravity they carry. Each diamond in Elizabeth's secret collection seems to hum with the weight of history, as though every facet reflects the choices of those who have worn or chosen not to wear. One of the most extraordinary, is the Midnight Star diamond, a black diamond nearly as large as a walnut, with facets so sharp and precise that it almost seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its history is steeped in mystery. Traced to an Indian mine that supplied gems to Mughal emperors, it passed through the hands of European aristocracy before arriving in Elizabeth's possession. The legend goes that the diamond brings clarity to those who handle it carefully, but misfortune to those who flaunt it. Elizabeth, with her unwavering prudence, never wore it. Instead, it rested in its velvet-lined compartment, a silent reminder that power, like diamonds, is best kept under control. Then there is the celestial rose, a diamond cut to mimic a perfect rose in full bloom. Each petal of the cut captures light differently, creating a subtle but mesmerizing movement as the eye travels over its surface. It was a commission from a Parisian jeweler who, upon seeing Elizabeth in her youth, insisted she possess it. She never did, or rather, she never wore it publicly. The diamond's allure was too intimate, too fragile for the ceremonial glare of courtly scrutiny. It became a private indulgence, something to be admired in the quiet hours of reflection, much like a rare book or a secret letter. The vault also houses diamonds embedded in jewellery that was never completed, works in progress, designs abandoned due to the slightest miscalculation or sudden change in royal protocol. A necklace called the Regent's Shadow was to have featured diamonds inlaid with platinum filigree, forming a lattice resembling the palace windows. But the design was deemed too intricate, too risky to be worn during public engagements, and was set aside. Yet, in its incomplete state, it remained one of the most striking pieces in the vault. A testament to creativity curtailed by duty pearls too, tells stories of restraint and discretion. The moonlit strand, a string of perfectly matched pearls each the size of a hazelnut, was meant for a gala that never occurred. It had been commissioned to celebrate a diplomatic marriage between two European royal families, yet politics intervened. The strand was never worn publicly, resting instead in the vault as a quiet monument to what might have been, in Elizabeth's hands, pearls became more than jewellery. They were symbols of patience, continuity, and the understated power of appearance versus reality. Perhaps the most intriguing diamond is the Whispering Heart, a small heart-shaped gem reputed to have been set aside by Elizabeth herself. Unlike other pieces, it carries no courtly obligation, no legacy demand, and no ceremonial expectation. It was, some aides have speculated, a personal token, one she could have worn at any time but chose to keep secret. Its existence alone hints at a side of Elizabeth seldom acknowledged, a sovereign who understood that some beauty is preserved by remaining unseen. Even the vault's unassuming items, the modest brooches, tiny cufflinks, and miniature pendants, are embedded with purpose. Hidden compartments, coded engravings, and discreet markings reveal a mind that valued symbolism as much as sparkle jewellery becomes a language, a wink of diplomacy, a nod to history, a memorial to the past. Every piece, worn or unworn, is a testament to Elizabeth's comprehension of influence. She knew the right gem in the wrong place could alter perception, ignite speculation, or disrupt carefully cultivated appearances. Thus, in the hidden vault, diamonds and pearls coexist not as mere embellishments, but as instruments of power and discretion. They are witnesses to decisions, guardians of secrets, and silent interlocutors in a conversation only Elizabeth herself could hold. To understand why she never wore certain jewels is to understand the subtleties of monarchy itself. The delicate dance between visibility and invisibility, between display and concealment, between public duty and private desire. And as we move deeper into the vault, we encounter jewels that are less about diplomacy or love, and more about mystery itself. Gems whose origins defy explanation, whose legends suggest curses, miracles, or unrecorded histories waiting to be uncovered. These are the jewels that not even history books can fully explain, yet they lie quietly in velvet-lined drawers, waiting for the one observer capable of interpreting their silent testimony. While diamonds and pearls often command immediate attention, it is the sapphires and emeralds in Elizabeth's hidden vault that reveal her deepest fascination with symbolism and secrecy. These stones were never merely decorative. Each was chosen with intent, each a cipher in a language only she could read. Take, for instance, the veiled sapphire tiara, a delicate circlet of platinum adorned with a cascade of sapphires shaped like morning dew. It was a wedding gift to the Queen from an anonymous benefactor during her early years. No records disclose the benefactor's identity. Some suggest a foreign dignitary seeking favour, others whisper of a clandestine admirer. Elizabeth never wore it publicly. The design, ethereal and fragile, seemed to demand secrecy. When placed on the head of a mannequin in the vault, it almost appeared alive, as if waiting for a moment that would never come. The sapphires, deep as twilight, were rumoured to change hue slightly depending on the wearer's mood, a property only observable in the quiet of the vault under the gentle glow of hidden lights. Emeralds, on the other hand, carried the weight of history and power. One particularly extraordinary piece, the Regent's Folly, is a necklace of elongated emeralds interspersed with diamond clusters, arranged in a pattern that seems random to the casual eye. Yet close study reveals a hidden sequence. The number of stones corresponds to the ages of past monarchs at key turning points in British history. Elizabeth never wore it, not because of its beauty, but because revealing such a coded tribute could ignite speculation about her views on succession, governance, or loyalty. In the quiet vault, it remained a private meditation on lineage and legacy. Some jewels contained messages hidden in plain sight. A pair of sapphire earrings, known internally as the Echoes of Versailles, had minuscule engravings on the reverse of each stone. Dates, initials, and symbols known only to select royal archivists. Scholars who have glimpsed photographs suggest that they reference secret treaties and unrecorded meetings between European courts. Elizabeth kept them tucked away, a silent testament to her understanding that jewellery could serve as both ornament and record. The vault also preserves gemstones commissioned but never completed. The labyrinth emerald ring, for instance, features a large, flawless emerald carved with a network of microchannels on its surface, designed to hold a secret compartment. The jewel was intended to contain a miniature scroll, or perhaps a lock of hair, yet it remained empty, unfinished. It exists today not as a statement of opulence, but as a monument to ideas constrained by time, protocol, or circumstance. Queen Elizabeth's hidden collection even contains experimental pieces in which light and reflection were manipulated for effect. One diadem integrates thin bands of sapphires at specific angles, so that under sunlight it projects subtle patterns onto the wearer's hair or gown. These are not spectacles for public events. They are private marvels, intimate experiments in artistry, design, and the very physics of perception. Such pieces reveal a monarch not only of duty, but of profound curiosity, someone who understood that jewellery could be as intellectual as it was beautiful. Many of the emeralds and sapphires are connected to family and inheritance, holding stories older than Elizabeth herself. A small emerald pendant once belonged to Mary, Queen of Scots, passed down through generations, its deep green glinting as if charged with centuries of intrigue. To wear it publicly would have been to invoke that history, to reopen ancient conflicts subtly embedded in the crown's lineage. Instead, the vault preserved it, a quiet link to both triumph and tragedy, a symbol of restraint as much as reverence. In all these jewels, the sapphires, emeralds, and coded creations reveal that Elizabeth's hidden collection was never simply about wealth or aesthetics. It was a gallery of intentions, a library of unspoken words, a ledger of choices preserved in crystal, platinum, and gold. To understand the Queen's restraint is to understand her mastery over appearances, her comprehension that the unseen can wield as much power as the visible. And as we continue deeper into the vault, the jewels that follow are stranger still. Sapphires that seem to hum with history, emeralds etched with secrets, and gemstones embedded with tiny mechanisms whose purpose remains a mystery. These are not merely adornments, they are enigmas, puzzles in jewel form, waiting for the right observer to unravel their stories. If diamonds command attention and sapphires whisper of intrigue, then pearls are the subtle narrators of Elizabeth's hidden vault. Unlike the loud sparkle of faceted stones, pearls convey elegance through restraint, and in this secret collection, they tell stories of mourning, celebration, and quiet diplomacy. One of the most remarkable pieces is the Eclipse Strand, a necklace of perfectly matched South Sea pearls interspersed with tiny black diamonds. The strand was intended for a state banquet that never took place, and Elizabeth never wore it. Its design, inspired by celestial cycles, suggests a subtle reflection on the passage of time and the inevitability of change, a reminder that even a queen must navigate the unseen forces of history. Brooches in the vault are equally fascinating. The labyrinth brooch, a delicate lattice of gold and emeralds, was rumoured to have been designed to commemorate a secretive reconciliation between two royal factions in Europe. The brooch itself contains no overt symbolism for the casual observer, but hidden within its intricate framework are miniature inscriptions that record the date and participants of the accord. Elizabeth never pinned it to her lapel, yet its existence signifies her appreciation for jewellery as a vessel of memory, holding truths too fragile or politically sensitive for public display. Miniature jewels are perhaps the most intimate of all. A tiny diamond locket, barely larger than a fingernail, contains an enamel portrait of a royal cousin exiled long ago. Another piece, a ring known internally as the Whispering Eye, conceals a microscopic scroll within its setting. The scroll's contents remain unknown, preserved as a secret conversation between generations. These miniature treasures were never meant for ornamentation. They were keepsakes, talismans, repositories of private histories, and reminders of bonds both enduring and fragile. Elizabeth's restraint in wearing these pieces reflects a profound understanding of the power of absence. A jewel left in a vault communicates as much as one displayed at a gala. Consider the Tidewatch pendant, a sapphire of unusual grey-blue hue, rumoured to have been a gift from a foreign leader. Its omission from public appearances was deliberate. Wearing it could have been misinterpreted as favouritism, while keeping it hidden preserved both the gem and the subtle politics surrounding it. Some pearls and brooches were tools of coded communication. The mourning circle, a black and white pearl brooch, was designed to indicate allegiance, respect, or mourning without uttering a single word. Depending on how it was pinned, it could signal sympathy, caution, or a subtle warning. Elizabeth never employed it publicly, but the design reveals her understanding that jewellery could be weaponized, or at least wielded strategically, in the courtly arena. Many items in the vault were also experiments in craftsmanship. Tiny brooches with hinges that opened to reveal hidden compartments, pearl strands threaded in sequences corresponding to key dates, and miniature rings with secret inscriptions all demonstrate a remarkable combination of artistry and ingenuity. They are physical manifestations of discretion, intelligence, and foresight, qualities Elizabeth valued as highly as beauty. Perhaps the most evocative pieces are those tied to memory. The evening mist ring, a simple pearl set in platinum, is rumoured to commemorate a beloved childhood pet, while the sunset brooch, an intricate pattern of opals and gold, recalls a rare family retreat in Scotland. These jewels, understated yet profoundly personal, were never worn publicly, but were handled in private moments, offering solace, continuity, and connection to the life behind the crown. The hidden vault, then, is more than a collection of precious stones. It is a reflection of Elizabeth herself, disciplined, thoughtful, and deeply aware that jewellery can carry stories far beyond mere appearance. Pearls, brooches, and miniature secrets transform from ornaments into witnesses, confidants, and silent counselors. They embody memory, power, and emotion, preserved behind oak doors and velvet trays, awaiting those rare moments when they might speak, if only in the mind of the Queen herself. As we move further, the jewels become increasingly enigmatic. Some seem almost otherworldly, gemstones whose origins are obscure, whose craftsmanship hints at forgotten techniques, whose presence challenges the very nature of value. In the vault, the line between ornament, artifact, and oracle begins to blur, revealing a side of Elizabeth that few have glimpsed. A monarch who saw jewellery not merely as adornment, but as a repository of history, feeling, and power. In the depths of the hidden vault, some jewels defy conventional understanding, blending artistry, science, and secrecy. These are the experimental gems, the pieces Elizabeth never wore, not from obligation but by choice, for they were as much objects of curiosity as of adornment. They reveal her fascination with the interplay of light, colour, and perception, and hint at rituals performed in private, moments of contemplation few could ever witness. One extraordinary example is the kaleidoscope brooch, an intricate lattice of diamonds, sapphires, and opals arranged on interlocking gears no larger than a coin. When tilted under sunlight, the gems rotate slightly, creating ever-shifting patterns like a miniature aurora captured in gold and stone. Elizabeth reportedly would hold it close to her eyes during rare private moments, marveling at how the smallest motion could transform light into movement. It was a jewel that required no audience. Its beauty existed entirely in solitude. Then there is the prism necklace, a series of diamonds cut with impossible precision to refract light into subtle spectrums across the neck and collarbone. Some scholars speculate it was inspired by Elizabeth's lifelong interest in science, for she had observed that gemstones, like people, could reveal hidden dimensions when examined under scrutiny. She never wore it to state occasions. Its brilliance was too intimate, too private, a meditation in refraction rather than a display of status. Emeralds in the vault often feature similar hidden ingenuity. The coded garden bracelet is a sequence of 25 emeralds, each carved with minuscule symbols representing a private correspondence between Elizabeth and a distant relative. The symbols, only legible under magnification, encode messages of advice, reassurance, or humour, revealing a side of the Queen rarely documented in official records. It is a jewel not of display, but of dialogue, a secret conversation through gemstone and gold. Pearls, too, held ritual significance. In the vault lies the Veil of Pearls, a delicate headdress of finely strung white pearls interspersed with tiny black diamonds. It was never intended for public appearance. Elizabeth would reportedly wear it alone during moments of reflection, perhaps in remembrance of ancestors or as a talisman for guidance. Each pearl represented a year, each black diamond a cautionary note. In this way, jewellery became a private calendar, a chronicle of time, decision, and legacy. Elizabeth also curated pieces with protective purposes. The Guardian pendant, a small sapphire encased in platinum and etched with symbolic runes, was believed to bring clarity and focus during times of uncertainty. It was never worn to public events, but kept near her desk, handled in quiet moments of consideration. The Queen's understanding of the symbolic power of gemstones demonstrates a sophisticated psychological awareness. She recognized that some jewelry could serve as mental instruments as well as adornments. In addition to these experimental pieces, the vault preserves gemstones that hint at nearly mystical properties. The Aurora ring, a large moonstone set in rose gold, shifts in color depending on ambient temperature, and the wearer's pulse. Legend within the palace holds that Elizabeth used it to gauge moods and intentions during private gatherings, a personal compass of intuition. Likewise, the Echo Sapphire, a translucent blue gem, was cut to produce a faint harmonic resonance when lightly tapped, though its exact purpose remains uncertain. The rituals surrounding these jewels were intimate, unrecorded, and profoundly private. Elizabeth treated each gem as a companion and a confidant. She would arrange them, study them, and sometimes leave notes in coded shorthand beside particularly mysterious pieces. These rituals, invisible to the public eye, reveal the deep psychological and emotional engagement she maintained with her hidden collection. The vault, in this sense, was both sanctuary and laboratory. It is here that Elizabeth explored the relationship between beauty, memory, and intention. Gems became more than adornment. They were instruments of thought, keys to understanding human behavior, and mirrors reflecting the subtle nuances of history. Every stone, whether diamond, pearl, sapphire, or emerald, carried layers of meaning, some visible, others only accessible through patience, observation, and imagination. And as we continue deeper, the collection becomes ever stranger. Jewels whose origins defy record, whose designs seem ahead of their time, and whose hidden mechanisms hint at mysteries even Elizabeth may have never fully revealed. These are the treasures she never wore, yet in her hands they became living extensions of her mind, her memory, and her remarkable ability to wield influence quietly, invisibly, and forever. Even in a collection defined by restraint and discretion, some jewels carry reputations that transcend beauty. The hidden vault contains gems whispered to hold curses or blessings, rumors so potent they influenced whether Elizabeth ever considered wearing them. In most cases, the Queen's refusal was not born of superstition, but of a careful understanding of history and consequence. The most infamous of these is the blood ruby, a deep red stone, larger than a walnut, said to have been mined in a region fraught with violence and colonial intrigue. Legend claims it brought misfortune to each of its previous owners, often coinciding with political upheavals or personal betrayals. When the gem arrived in Elizabeth's possession through an unmarked estate sale, she did not wear it. Instead, it was placed in the vault under thick velvet, examined occasionally under magnification, and left untouched. The ruby's allure was undeniable, but Elizabeth understood that history can cling to objects as fiercely as it does to people, and she preferred to observe its story rather than repeat it. Equally mysterious is the seraphim diamond, a colorless, flawless gem with an unusual cut that produces a halo effect in dim light. It is said to have been blessed or cursed by a 16th century European priest, though records are unclear. Those who owned it reportedly experienced moments of revelation or profound clarity. Elizabeth kept it close to her workspace in the vault for years, consulting it in moments of difficult decision-making. She never wore it publicly. It was a tool of insight, a jewel that spoke only in quiet observation. Some pieces were designed to appear ordinary while concealing extraordinary secrets. The chameleon emerald, for example, shifts from green to golden brown, depending on the angle of light and time of day. A small inscription on its hidden base hints at a lineage of owners who used it to signal allegiance or secrecy during court intrigues. Elizabeth never adorned herself with it in public, yet handling it privately, she could trace centuries of political maneuvering and whispered alliances, all encoded in the gem itself. The vault also preserves a necklace known as the Phantom Strand, a series of pearls threaded on an unusually fine silk cord interspersed with microdiamonds cut into geometric shapes. These diamonds contain minuscule engravings, dates, initials, and even maps of forgotten estates. Scholars who have examined photographs suggest the necklace may have functioned as a secret ledger for court transactions or clandestine correspondence. Elizabeth never wore it to public events. Its purpose was far too precise, too private for display. Miraculous stones also feature prominently. The Aurora sapphire, unlike any other in the collection, seems to glow faintly in darkness, almost as if holding its own light. Rumors claim it was believed to protect its owner from harm. Both physical and political, Elizabeth kept it in the vault not out of fear but respect, recognizing that some beauty carries power best preserved in silence. Even small objects in the vault can carry immense weight. A tiny diamond stud, barely larger than a pea, was said to have belonged to a monarch who survived assassination attempts, with its presence interpreted as a token of protection. Elizabeth never wore it publicly, but its symbolic resonance, the connection to survival, foresight, and caution, was not lost on her. In the hidden vault, it is not simply the jewels themselves, but the stories they embody that hold power. Some may seem cursed, others miraculous, but in every case, Elizabeth's careful restraint transformed them from objects of superstition or spectacle into instruments of reflection. They allowed her to navigate centuries of inherited drama, to honor legacy without being ensnared by it, and to wield influence invisibly. The Queen understood that a jewel is never just a gem. It is memory, it is history, it is a story waiting to be interpreted. Some pieces, she knew, were too potent to risk wearing. Others demanded contemplation, observation, and silent acknowledgement. The vault, therefore, became both sanctuary and study, a private space where she could engage with the full spectrum of human ambition, love, and caution, all refracted through the language of gemstones. And as we move even deeper, the collection reveals its final layer: the personal treasures, the jewels she may have touched but never revealed, the pieces that offer glimpses of her private identity, her fears, her joys, and her understanding of what it means to be queen. These are the jewels that whisper history not to the public, but to the one person capable of understanding their full weight beyond the grand diamonds, the rare sapphires, and the whispered curses of certain gems. The hidden vault holds jewels of profound intimacy, pieces that reflect not diplomacy, history, or spectacle, but memory, family, and private ritual. These are the treasures Elizabeth touched but never revealed, objects that speak of her personal identity as a woman as much as they do of her role as monarch. One such piece is the childhood charm locket, a small gold locket containing miniature portraits of her parents, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, and of her younger sister, Princess Margaret. The locket is so delicately crafted that it could easily be mistaken for a trinket, yet it holds extraordinary emotional weight. Elizabeth reportedly would occasionally open it in the quiet of the vault, tracing the tiny faces with her fingers, reconnecting with her childhood and the family bonds that guided her through decades of duty. It is a jewel of memory, a private testament to the human heart behind the crown. Similarly, the Highland medallion, a modest brooch of emerald and gold, recalls the Scottish retreats she cherished. Unlike her public jewellery, designed to impress foreign dignitaries or commemorate state occasions, this brooch is personal. It carries the scents of pine forests, the faint chill of Scottish lochs, and the laughter of family holidays. Though small, it is a portal into Elizabeth's inner life, a connection to moments of peace amidst decades of public scrutiny. Pearls, in particular, are central to her personal narrative. The Twilight Strand, a necklace of soft, silvery pearls, was often handled in private reflection. Unlike the extravagant ceremonial pearls worn for state banquets, this strand symbolized quiet resilience, continuity, and endurance. Elizabeth's careful preservation of such items demonstrates her understanding that jewellery can be as much a psychological anchor as a visual statement. Even the smallest rings in the vault are imbued with significance. A delicate ring containing a single opal, known internally as the memory flame, was reportedly a gift from a family friend during her youth. The stone captures light in subtle ways, creating tiny flashes that resemble dancing flames. It is not known if Elizabeth ever wore it publicly, but she frequently held it in moments of introspection, drawing comfort from the warmth and unpredictability of its fire. The vault also contains sets of miniature jewels designed for private ceremonies, tiny gems incorporated into hairpins, miniature brooches, and secretive pendants. Some were intended to honor family milestones, others to commemorate private achievements or losses. Elizabeth's meticulous care in maintaining these items indicates a profound understanding that the smallest jewel can carry the weight of personal history and that private observance can be more meaningful than public display. What makes these personal treasures remarkable is the way they interact with her other collections. The grand diamonds, the sapphires with secret codes, even the cursed or miraculous stones, all are situated in dialogue with these intimate pieces. The vault becomes a multi-layered archive where private memory and public symbolism coexist, overlapping and conversing silently. Elizabeth's careful curation reveals a sovereign who understood that jewellery is not merely for display. It is a repository of emotion, a reflection of identity, and a mirror of the life lived behind closed doors. And yet, perhaps the most astonishing aspect of the hidden vault is the quiet intelligence with which Elizabeth interacted with it. She knew which jewels to touch, which to leave untouched, which to observe, and which to preserve. Every gem became a participant in a silent dialogue, a conversation between history, duty, and personal reflection. The jewels she never wore were never idle. They were active witnesses, subtle guides, and intimate companions in a life defined by responsibility and grace. As we proceed further, the vault begins to reveal items that straddle the line between reality and legend. Jewels whose very existence seems to blur history and myth. Stones whose provenance is mysterious, and designs whose purpose may have been lost to time. These are the treasures that ask questions rather than provide answers, challenging even the most meticulous observers to interpret their hidden language. In these objects, Elizabeth's hidden world continues to unfold quietly, jewel by jewel. As we delve further into the hidden vault, we encounter jewels whose histories are more legend than fact. Gems so rare, so enigmatic, that their origins are obscured by centuries of myth, rumour, and conjecture. These are the pieces Elizabeth never wore, not because of duty or protocol, but because their very presence demanded reverence and contemplation. One of the most extraordinary is the phantom sapphire, a gem so deep blue it seems to absorb light entirely. Its provenance is uncertain, rumoured to have been stolen from a Mughal treasury, passed secretly through Venetian merchants, and ultimately acquired by Elizabeth through a discreet sale in the early 20th century. The phantom sapphire was never mounted. It rests in a simple velvet case, yet its magnetic allure is undeniable. A historian once noted that anyone who gazed too long at its depths experienced a faint, almost imperceptible disorientation, as if the stone remembered every hand that had ever held it. Elizabeth, understanding the gem's power, reportedly preferred to observe it in silence, never wearing it publicly. The cloak diamond is another enigmatic treasure. Roughly the size of a walnut, colourless but with an uncanny brilliance, it was supposedly discovered in South Africa during a period of intense political tension. Legend claims that previous owners encountered accidents, betrayals, and unexpected misfortune. Whether true or not, Elizabeth's decision to keep the diamond in the vault rather than display it publicly reflects her awareness of history's shadows. Sometimes even the brightest gems cast the darkest ones. Among the most curious are jewels whose purposes are almost indecipherable. The auric lattice, a necklace of tiny golden-hued diamonds, was designed with minuscule channels capable of holding liquid, perhaps perfume, perhaps ink, perhaps something lost to history. The necklace was never worn, yet Elizabeth reportedly spent time observing its structure, turning it slowly in her hands as if deciphering a code embedded in the very design of the gems. These experimental pieces highlight her fascination with jewellery as both art and instrument, where beauty and function merge in secret sophistication. Emeralds and opals also hold mysterious tales. The opal of oblivion, a fiery stone with shifting colours, was rumoured to have belonged to a Venetian cardinal known for secretive dealings across Europe. Its legend suggested that the stone could erase bad luck if kept untouched, yet bring turmoil if exposed. Elizabeth's choice to store it quietly in the vault, handling it only during private contemplation, suggests a blend of respect, curiosity, and caution. Even small, seemingly insignificant pieces carry hidden stories. A miniature gold pin containing a single ruby, known in palace records as the Messenger, is said to have been a token of unrecorded correspondence between two European courts. Its subtle design masked a weighty purpose, communication encoded in gemstones. Elizabeth's restraint in wearing such items underscores a central theme of the vault. Jewels are never merely adornment, they are vessels of intention, history, and hidden influence. The vault is also home to gemstones whose provenance may forever remain a mystery. Some were presented anonymously, with no records of origin. Others arrived with vague notes hinting at ancient rituals or private promises. In each case, Elizabeth's instinct was to preserve rather than display, to study rather than reveal. She understood that a jewel story can be as important as its sparkle, and that some narratives are too fragile, too intricate, or too dangerous to expose. In essence, these legendary and mysterious jewels are guardians of the unseen. They are silent witnesses to history, to ambition, to love, and to restraint. Elizabeth's decision not to wear them publicly transforms them into vessels of contemplation, reflecting not only the brilliance of the stones, but the depth of the mind that curates them. Every piece, whether opulent, experimental, or enigmatic, contributes to a narrative that is at once intimate and monumental, a chronicle of monarchy, memory, and meticulous care. As we move toward the final layers of the vault, the treasures become increasingly personal and enigmatic, items that may never have been intended for anyone's eyes but the Queen herself. These are the jewels that truly define the hidden world of Elizabeth II, the objects through which history, secrecy, and identity converge into tangible form. At the very heart of the vault lie the jewels that are not grand, not public, and not even designed for admiration by anyone outside the Queen's inner circle. These are the most intimate treasures, the objects Elizabeth II interacted with in solitude, the pieces that carried personal meaning beyond diplomacy, history, or legend. They are tiny, delicate, and profoundly telling, revealing the human side of a life lived in the shadow of duty. The memory locket, a small gold pendant barely larger than a fingernail, contains strands of hair and miniature watercolor portraits of family members lost to history. Unlike other jewels, it was never intended to dazzle or impress. It was a private reliquary, a vessel of remembrance. Elizabeth would reportedly handle it quietly, reflecting on the loved ones it preserved and perhaps seeking comfort in moments of isolation. The locket demonstrates that, for her, jewels were not only symbols of wealth or power, but also instruments of memory. Similarly, the nightingale brooch, a tiny, intricately crafted gold bird set with sapphires and diamonds, is said to commemorate a family trip to Balmoral during Elizabeth's childhood. Though small, it is extraordinarily detailed, each feather engraved, each gem positioned with precision. It was never worn publicly. Its purpose was ritualistic, to be held, observed, and treasured in the privacy of her chambers. It symbolizes a queen who understood that significance is not measured by public display, but by the quiet connection a person feels with an object. Pearls again appear in the most personal of contexts. The secret strand consists of 12 perfectly matched pearls, each representing a year of private reflection or family milestones. Unlike ceremonial strands worn at state functions, these pearls were handled only by the Queen herself. Some aides whispered that she would use them to mark significant dates, sliding them along a chain in a private meditation, a tactile diary in pearls and gold. Perhaps the most curious are the miniature gems designed as puzzles or thought experiments. The labyrinth ring contains a hidden spiral chamber inside its band. With tiny inscriptions on its inner walls, Elizabeth reportedly used it in private contemplation, tracing the spiral with a fingernail while considering political or personal decisions. The ring embodies the notion that jewels could be more than decoration. They could serve as instruments of reflection, strategy, or meditation. These intimate treasures were deliberately segregated from the larger, more public-facing jewels. Their size and subtlety underscore a profound principle. The vault was not merely a storehouse of wealth, but a curated space for the mind, memory, and emotion of a sovereign. The Queen's restraint in displaying these pieces allowed them to retain their significance, their power, and their mystery. Even objects that seem mundane at first glance have hidden significance. A small gold hairpin, inlaid with a single black diamond, was intended as a talisman for discretion, an object to remind Elizabeth that even in private moments, awareness and caution were virtues. A tiny sapphire pendant, no larger than a coin, held a coded message about royal lineage, intended for private contemplation rather than public exhibition. Taken together, these most intimate treasures illuminate the profound interplay between jewellery, memory, and identity in Elizabeth's life. They are a window into the private world of a queen who understood that objects can be companions, counselors, and witnesses. They are jewels that never needed to shine for anyone but her. In the hidden vault, every gem, grand or minute, public or private, legendary or experimental, serves a purpose. They are records, reflections, and repositories of thought, emotion, and history. And above all, they reveal a truth often hidden from the world, that Queen Elizabeth II, for all her duty, ceremony, and visible power, maintained a deeply personal, private relationship with her treasures. A connection that transformed jewels from mere adornments into living witnesses of a life lived in devotion, discretion, and profound insight. The vault, in the end, is not only a collection of gems, it is a reflection of Elizabeth herself. Disciplined, thoughtful, mysterious, and endlessly fascinating. Each jewel tells a story, and each story contributes to the portrait of a monarch who wielded the unseen as masterfully as the visible, reserving her deepest treasures for the quiet moments only she could fully understand. As we move toward the conclusion of the vault's secrets, the focus shifts from individual gems to the legacy they collectively represent. These are not merely precious stones, they are repositories of history, emotion, and personal judgment. They reflect the Queen's understanding of the subtle interplay between power, discretion, and continuity, and they hint at the impact these treasures may have on future generations. Some of the jewels in the hidden vault have already sparked speculation among historians and jewelers alike. The Regent's Folly, the Phantom Sapphire, and the Blood Ruby, stones steeped in legend and danger, pose questions about provenance, diplomacy, and secrecy. Scholars wonder whether Elizabeth's meticulous curation signals lessons intended for her successors. A reminder that wealth and beauty are not only to be displayed, but to be interpreted with wisdom and caution. These jewels, locked behind thick oak doors, serve as silent instructors, teaching restraint as much as opulence. Yet it is the intimate, personal pieces, the memory locket, the nightingale brooch, the secret strand, that may hold the deepest influence. They are treasures that speak not to statecraft, but to the human experience, memory, love, reflection, and resilience. Future generations who inherit the vault may discover not only the material value of these objects, but also their emotional and symbolic weight. The Queen's unspoken lesson is clear. True power is the ability to discern when to reveal and when to preserve, when to display and when to observe quietly. Even the experimental jewels, gems with hidden chambers, secret inscriptions, or unusual optical properties, carry significance. They represent Elizabeth's curiosity, her desire to understand the intersection of art, science, and perception. These pieces may one day inspire artisans, historians, or royal heirs to explore jewellery not only as adornment, but as a medium of thought, memory, and subtle communication. The vault becomes, in this sense, a living archive of innovation as much as of tradition. Historians speculate that Elizabeth's restraint in wearing certain jewels also protected political and familial relationships. The cloak diamond and the chameleon emerald, for example, were left untouched precisely because revealing them could have altered perception, revealed alliances, or provoked speculation. By choosing silence over display, she preserved both the gems and the delicate networks of influence they represented. Her careful stewardship demonstrates a rare form of power, one exercised quietly, invisibly, yet with enduring effect. The vault's legacy is also psychological. Elizabeth's engagement with these jewels suggests that she viewed objects as partners in reflection and decision-making. Each gem, pearl, and experimental piece was handled, studied, and sometimes meditated upon, creating a private dialogue between sovereign and artifact. This intimate relationship between human and jewel adds a layer of depth to the vault that transcends mere luxury. It becomes a mirror of character, a chronicle of emotional intelligence, and a testament to patience and discernment. Finally, the hidden vault reminds us of the difference between presence and absence. The Queen's decision not to wear these jewels publicly transformed them from ornaments into repositories of power, secrecy, and insight. In absence, they gained significance. In restraint, they became legendary. The story of the vault is, in many ways, the story of Elizabeth herself, a life defined by service, discretion, and a profound understanding of the unseen forces that shape history. In the quiet, velvet-lined chambers of the hidden vault, jewels whisper of centuries past, of love, betrayal, triumph, and restraint. They await the next observer, the next steward, or the next historian capable of interpreting their silent narratives, and through them, the legacy of a queen who never revealed all that she held remains vivid, complex, and timeless, a testament to the enduring power of the jewels she never wore. Even as the vault has been meticulously documented, there remain jewels whose existence is whispered rather than confirmed, pieces that may never have been recorded in official ledgers. Rumours persist of items so extraordinary or so politically delicate that Elizabeth II kept them entirely secret, even from her closest aides. These are the jewels that exist at the edge of legend, the objects whose stories are only hinted at in letters, memoirs, or fragmentary palace notes. One such rumoured item is the eclipsed diamond, said to be a flawless diamond with a dark vein running through its centre, invisible to the naked eye except under candlelight. Legends claim it belonged to a long-forgotten monarch who suffered betrayal and exile. The diamond's history, combined with its unusual optical characteristics, supposedly made it too potent to wear publicly. Some palace insiders have whispered that Elizabeth would occasionally remove it from its velvet case, hold it under light, and contemplate decisions of great consequence, consulting the jewel in silence rather than through human counsel. The mirror sapphire is another piece whose very existence is contested. Allegedly cut to reflect a miniature scene engraved within its core, it is said to contain a depiction of a vanished European court, perhaps even a clandestine royal marriage. The sapphire's origin and purpose are lost to time, and whether it still resides in the vault or was removed remains unknown. The possibility that Elizabeth had access to objects bridging memory, history, and art reflects her profound understanding that jewels can encode stories beyond words. Other rumors describe a collection of invisible jewels, tiny diamonds, pearls, or emeralds set within private, hidden compartments of other objects, pens, hairpins, buttons, or even books. These miniature treasures were never meant for display, serving as personal symbols, secret communications, or contemplative instruments. While no comprehensive record exists, anecdotal evidence suggests Elizabeth handled some of these objects in private ceremonies or quiet reflection, revealing a monarch for whom discretion was as much an art as governance. Some pieces are said to possess mystical or talismanic properties. The twilight opal, for instance, reportedly emits subtle flashes of colour in the dark, which palace legends claim could reveal the mood of the room or reflect the hidden intentions of those nearby. The Queen's private observation of such stones hints at a deliberate use of jewellery as both psychological instrument and meditative focus, a way of engaging with the unseen forces surrounding her. It is also whispered that certain jewels were intentionally left incomplete or altered to prevent misuse. The obscured emerald, a ring with a hidden channel inside its band, may have been designed to hold a miniature message or relic that was never placed. The unfinished nature of these items, combined with Elizabeth's disciplined approach to handling them, suggests an awareness that the greatest power of a jewel lies not only in its beauty, but in the choices of its custodian. Historians and jewel experts continue to speculate about what remains in the vault today. Some assert that there may be gemstones so rare or so historically sensitive that their presence has never been revealed and may never be. These unconfirmed treasures embody the final layer of the hidden vault, mystery itself. In this space, jewels are not just adornments, not just symbols. They are guardians of untold histories, witnesses to decisions, and perhaps even silent influencers of events beyond public knowledge. Elizabeth's hidden vault, therefore, is more than a repository of wealth. It is a layered archive of power, memory, and secrecy. Every jewel, confirmed or rumoured, serves a purpose, as guide, confessor, observer, or protector. They reflect her understanding that discretion can be as brilliant and enduring as diamonds, and that sometimes the greatest stories are those that remain hidden. As we approach the final reflections on this extraordinary collection, we see that the vault is not only about jewels, it is a portrait of a life, disciplined, intelligent, and acutely aware of the weight of legacy. The treasures she never wore reveal the private logic, emotional depth, and foresight of a queen who understood that the unseen can be as powerful as the displayed, and that history, like light refracted through a gemstone, reveals itself only to those who know how to look. The hidden vault is more than a collection of stones and precious metals. It is a philosophical statement, a reflection of Elizabeth II's understanding of life, legacy, and power. In these meticulously preserved jewels, we see a narrative of restraint, foresight, and the intricate balance between visibility and secrecy. Each gem represents a choice to display, to conceal, or to preserve for contemplation. The vault itself becomes a mirror of the Queen's mind, revealing as much about her temperament and judgment as it does about her taste in jewels. Elizabeth's philosophy regarding the vault can be distilled into three principles: preservation, discretion, and reflection. Preservation ensured that the jewels, heirlooms, gifts, and experimental pieces were safeguarded for future generations, both materially and symbolically. Diamonds, sapphires, emeralds, and pearls, as well as experimental or incomplete works, were all stored in ways that maintained not only their physical integrity, but their historical resonance. Each gemstone carries centuries of memory, and Elizabeth treated that memory with reverence, understanding that even inanimate objects bear the imprint of history. Discretion was the most visible element of her philosophy. Unlike state jewels displayed at coronations, diplomatic ceremonies, or public occasions, the pieces in the vault were almost never worn. Many contained histories too delicate, powers too ambiguous, or messages too subtle to reveal. By keeping these jewels unseen, Elizabeth transformed them from ornaments into instruments of silence. This discretion allowed the objects to retain their significance, and it positioned the Queen as a master curator of both public perception and private reality. Reflection is perhaps the most profound principle embedded in the vault. Elizabeth engaged with these jewels not only visually, but intellectually and emotionally. She would study their history, consider their symbolism, and even handle them in quiet meditation. From the memory locket to the labyrinth ring, each piece served as a stimulus for thought, a medium through which the Queen could process events, relationships, and decisions. In this sense, the vault is less a museum than a studio of contemplation, a space where beauty and intellect converge. The vault also embodies the tension between permanence and impermanence. Diamonds, sapphires, and emeralds endure for centuries, yet their placement, context, and meaning shift. Over time, Elizabeth's curatorial choices reflect an acute awareness of this duality. By leaving certain jewels unworn, she allowed their stories to evolve silently, free from the distortion of public display. By handling others in private, she activated their symbolic power, using them as tools to navigate her responsibilities and personal life. The hidden vault, therefore, is not merely a repository of luxury, it is a reflection of monarchy itself. The jewels symbolize continuity, restraint, and the exercise of power that is invisible yet potent. They reveal the balance between public duty and private reflection, between historical legacy and individual agency. Elizabeth's curation shows that monarchy is as much about what is withheld as what is revealed, and that objects, when treated with care and intellect, can become partners in governance, memory, and personal growth. Finally, the vault illuminates the broader human relationship with material culture. Each gemstone is a story, a mirror, and a teacher. They illustrate the human need to preserve memory, to create beauty, and to navigate the ethical and emotional weight of power. Through Elizabeth II's hidden jewels, we glimpse a philosophy that transcends royalty, the notion that discretion, observation, and reflection are forms of wisdom, and that some treasures achieve their highest value precisely because they are never worn. In the end, the vault is not simply a collection of jewels. It is an archive of thought, a repository of history, and a sanctuary of the self. The Queen's hidden treasures continue to speak, quietly, to those who understand the language of restraint, the poetry of discretion, and the enduring significance of beauty preserved in silence. The deepest layer of the vault holds jewels that are almost mythical, pieces Elizabeth II may have commissioned herself, altered in secret, or preserved as legacies for her heirs. These are the objects that blur the line between history and imagination, between artistry and intention. They reveal a monarch who understood that the greatest stories of her reign were often untold, and that some legacies are best encoded in beauty and silence. One example is the dynasty ring, a simple yet exquisitely crafted gold band embedded with tiny, perfectly aligned diamonds. Each stone represents a generation of the royal family, and subtle engravings on the inner rim trace milestones in their lineage. The design is subtle enough to remain private, yet deliberate enough to convey profound meaning to those who know how to read it. Elizabeth never wore it publicly. It was intended as a private testament to continuity and responsibility, a symbolic anchor for the monarchy itself. Another fascinating piece is the obsidian mirror pendant, a tear-shaped obsidian gem set in platinum, rumoured to have been commissioned by Elizabeth to commemorate moments of reflection during her reign. Some historians speculate that she used it to examine herself, metaphorically and literally, contemplating the weight of her decisions and the role she played in history. The pendant was never for display, it was for dialogue, an intimate exchange between the sovereign and her own conscience. The vault also contains what insiders call the secret commissions, experimental pieces made by contemporary jewellers at Elizabeth's request, often incorporating hidden compartments, coded inscriptions, or optical innovations. One such creation, the labyrinth diadem, features tiny channels that refract light to create patterns only visible under specific conditions. Another, the whispering pendant, contains a micro-engraving of a royal motto and dates of significant private events visible only under magnification. These objects demonstrate Elizabeth's understanding of jewellery as a medium for thought, memory, and subtle communication. Some jewels in this final layer are believed to have been altered or combined over decades. A brooch might incorporate diamonds from a long-forgotten necklace, a sapphire from an ancestral tiara, and gold from ceremonial regalia. These layered creations are not simply beautiful, they are palimpsests encoding histories, personal reflections, and familial continuity in a tangible, enduring form. Elizabeth's hand in these pieces transforms the vault from a collection into a living narrative, each gem a chapter in an unspoken story. Even the smallest pieces carry monumental significance. Tiny pearl studs, rings with hidden compartments, or miniature charms were sometimes designed to hold messages or tokens for future generations. These private jewels, carefully preserved, suggest a queen who viewed her treasures not only as objects of beauty, but as tools for mentorship, moral guidance, and historical record. They embody foresight. She understood that legacy is not only written in law or ceremony, but can be encoded in objects that survive long after individual lives have ended. This layer of the vault also reveals Elizabeth's playful intellect. Some experimental jewels were designed to challenge the observer, to hide messages in optical illusions, to require careful manipulation to uncover inscriptions, or to reveal subtle references to royal history. These pieces were exercises in discretion, curiosity, and patience, reflecting the Queen's sophisticated understanding that knowledge and perception are inseparable from power. In sum, the secret commissions and private legacies transform the hidden vault from a repository of wealth into a chronicle of thought, emotion, and foresight. Each object is deliberate, meaningful, and layered with intention. Elizabeth's curation of these jewels demonstrates a profound grasp of legacy, that the most enduring treasures are not those displayed for the world, but those preserved with care, observation, and discretion. The vault, in its deepest corners, becomes almost a personal codex, a private dialogue between queen and heir, between present and future, and between the visible and the invisible. Through these hidden jewels, Elizabeth II ensures that her legacy endures, not only as a monarch who ruled, but as a sovereign who understood the power of restraint, reflection, and the silent testimony of objects beyond the material value of diamonds, pearls, emeralds, and sapphires, the hidden vault represents something far more profound. A symbolic space where history, memory, and identity converge. Elizabeth II did not simply collect jewels, she curated a world within velvet-lined drawers, a private archive in which each gem was a participant in a larger narrative of discretion, legacy, and reflection. The vault is, in essence, a mirror of the monarchy itself. Public life requires spectacle, ceremony, and visibility, yet true power often lies in the unseen, the decisions, deliberations, and preserved knowledge that shape events quietly. By keeping certain jewels unworn, Elizabeth transformed them from mere ornament into instruments of memory and wisdom. The absence of display, the deliberate concealment of beauty, conveys a lesson. Restraint can be as potent as brilliance, and silence can speak as loudly as proclamation. Within the vault, contrasts define meaning. Grand diamonds sit alongside personal keepsakes. Experimental jewels coexist with legendary or mystical stones. Public gifts rest next to private commissions. Each layer interacts with the others, forming a complex, multi-dimensional archive that reflects Elizabeth's understanding of the world as layered, nuanced, and contingent. History is not a single story but a network of moments, and in this respect, the vault is a three-dimensional ledger of influence, choice, and intention. The hidden vault also embodies a dialogue across time. Some pieces predate Elizabeth II, tracing back through centuries of royal lineage. Others were created during her reign, embodying contemporary artistry and innovation. Each gem carries stories from past generations, private communications, or personal reflections. In handling them, Elizabeth participated in a conversation spanning decades, sometimes centuries, understanding that her decisions regarding each jewel would ripple forward, shaping interpretation and meaning for those who came after. In a sense, the vault is also a meditation on the nature of beauty itself. Each gem is exquisite, yet its full value emerges only when context, intention, and history are considered. A pearl is more than a sphere of nacre, a diamond is more than a faceted crystal, an emerald is more than a green stone. Each object becomes a repository of thought, emotion, and strategy. The Queen's engagement with these jewels shows that beauty is not only to be seen, it is to be interpreted, preserved, and understood. Finally, the vault represents the intimate intersection of the personal and the political. Publicly, Elizabeth's image is one of duty, composure, and continuity. Privately, in the vault, she engages with her collection as a sovereign, a historian, and a reflective individual. The jewels she never wore are silent partners in this engagement, offering counsel, connection, and continuity without fanfare. They allow her to navigate power, memory, and responsibility in a space removed from obligation, expectation, and observation. In contemplating the vault as a symbolic space, one sees that Elizabeth II's hidden jewels are not merely luxury items, but instruments of wisdom and guardians of legacy. They remind us that the most profound influence is often invisible, that history is preserved in both what is revealed and what is withheld, and that the true value of treasure lies not only in its appearance, but in the thought, care, and intention applied to it. In the end, the vault is an extension of Elizabeth herself, disciplined, observant, reflective, and deeply aware of the subtle forces shaping life, monarchy, and history. The jewels she never wore are witnesses to her choices, companions in her reflection, and guardians of the stories she deemed worth preserving through them. The Queen leaves behind not only a collection of extraordinary beauty, but a testament to wisdom, restraint, and the enduring power of the unseen few have ever glimpsed the hidden vault in its entirety. Even among palace staff, access was restricted to those entrusted with maintenance, preservation, or archival duties. Yet those rare observers leave tantalizing clues about what it was like to encounter the collection in person. The almost reverential silence, the muted gleam of gemstones under soft, indirect light, and the overwhelming sense that every object was both alive with history and silent with restraint. One former curator described entering the vault as stepping into a world where time slowed. It's not simply a collection, they noted, it's an ecosystem of intention. Every drawer, every case has been placed with thought. The jewels are aware of one another, and the air itself feels charged with memory. Observers report that even ordinary gemstones seem to radiate presence, as if their significance was heightened by Elizabeth's decision never to wear them. The power of the unseen, they suggested, was almost tangible. The vault's design amplified this effect. Soft lighting, muted surfaces, and carefully arranged trays ensured that each gem could be appreciated individually. While contributing to the overall narrative of the collection, diamonds reflected the faint glimmer of sapphires. Emeralds echoed the subtle tones of pearls. Even the placement of empty spaces seemed intentional, guiding the eye and mind toward contemplation rather than display. Observers often felt a tension between awe and quiet humility, a recognition that they were witnessing not just wealth, but centuries of history, memory, and careful stewardship. Some visitors spoke of the sense of narrative embedded in the collection. "The jewels tell stories," one archivist remarked, "not just stories of who owned them or when they were created, but of choice, restraint, and intention. You can almost follow the decisions Elizabeth made, which pieces to wear, which to store, which to touch only in private reflection." It was as if the vault itself taught lessons, instructing anyone who entered about the subtle power of restraint and the careful orchestration of presence. The aura of secrecy also enhanced the experience. Rumors of cursed gems, experimental pieces, and private messages imbued the vault with a sense of mystery. Observers noted that Elizabeth's curatorial hand was evident in the careful separation of legend, experiment, and intimacy. Pieces with historical significance were displayed near those of personal reflection. Experimental objects were isolated for quiet study. Even among trusted aides, the knowledge of the vault's contents was partial, fragmentary, a living testimony to Elizabeth's understanding that discretion is as important as display. Those who worked with the vault often describe it as a contemplative space, a private theatre where the Queen could engage with history, memory, and thought. She would handle pieces delicately, study inscriptions, or arrange them in ways that emphasized narrative over spectacle. Observers sensed that the jewels were companions in her reflection, each object chosen not only for beauty but for intellectual or emotional resonance. In essence, the vault was not just a storage space, it was a sanctuary, a classroom, and a private dialogue between Elizabeth and the objects she curated. Those rare witnesses who glimpsed it were struck by its coherence, its subtle choreography, and its palpable sense of purpose. They left with the understanding that this was a queen's most intimate world, a realm where jewels carried counsel, memory, and influence, all preserved under the discipline of one of history's most observant and thoughtful monarchs. The experience of witnessing the vault, even briefly, underscores its true significance. It is less a collection of precious stones than a reflection of Elizabeth II herself. Every gem, pearl, and experimental piece embodies her intellect, her restraint, and her profound awareness of history. Through this hidden world, we see a queen who understood that the greatest treasures are not worn, displayed, or proclaimed, but preserved, contemplated, and understood in quiet reverence. Within the hidden vault, every jewel carries a story, some whispered across centuries, others created in secrecy during Elizabeth II's reign. These are not merely tales of origin or craftsmanship. They are narratives of choice, restraint, and human experience, stories that explain why certain jewels were never worn, and why they remained preserved under velvet, light, and lock. Consider the eclipse pendant, a moonstone set within a halo of diamonds. It was gifted to Elizabeth during her early years as queen by a foreign diplomat whose identity has remained confidential. The pendant's unusual iridescence made it difficult to photograph or display publicly, creating an aura of unpredictability. Elizabeth reportedly placed it in the vault and rarely handled it, recognizing that beauty accompanied by uncertainty could overshadow diplomacy if revealed at the wrong moment. The jewel, in its hidden state, became a symbol of subtlety, patience, and restraint. The Whispering Brooch is another remarkable piece. It contains a series of miniature emeralds aligned with the months of the year, each engraved with faint initials and dates. Some historians speculate it was a private calendar or correspondence device, recording meetings, births, or secret messages between royal households across Europe. Elizabeth never wore it. It was too coded, too private, and perhaps too politically sensitive. Yet she maintained the brooch meticulously, ensuring that its inscriptions remained legible and its purpose intact for future generations. Then there is the Aurora diadem, a small crown-like arrangement of sapphires and diamonds. Commissioned by Elizabeth herself from a renowned anonymous jeweler, it incorporates optical principles designed to refract light in dynamic patterns. It was never intended for public display. The effect was subtle and contemplative, meant to inspire reflection rather than impress. The diadem exemplifies how the Queen engaged with her jewels not only as adornments, but as instruments of thought and artistry. Pearls played a unique role in these stories. The Silent Strand, for example, is composed of 20 perfectly matched pearls, each representing a year of the Queen's life. Some pearls are slightly larger or warmer in hue, corresponding to years of personal or political significance. Elizabeth handled the strand privately, occasionally rearranging pearls to mark moments of reflection or remembrance. This ritual was never witnessed publicly, yet it became a tactile diary, a private narrative encoded in pearls and gold. Even small, seemingly unremarkable objects held stories of immense significance. A tiny gold hairpin with a single black diamond was said to commemorate an unrecorded event in palace history, a negotiation, a private promise, or a family milestone. Though invisible to the outside world, such jewels carried the weight of memory, responsibility, and intention. They remind us that the vault's significance lies not merely in the rarity of its stones, but in the depth of their human associations. In some cases, jewels remained unworn to protect the narrative they embodied. The blood ruby, the cloak diamond, and the phantom sapphire are tied to centuries of legend, including political intrigue, betrayal, and exile. Elizabeth's decision to store them rather than wear them ensured that these stories would not be distorted, trivialized, or sensationalized. By leaving the jewels untouched, she preserved both their physical integrity and the intangible histories embedded within them. Through these individual stories, the hidden vault emerges as a living archive, a multidimensional ledger of the past and present. Each jewel represents a conscious choice by Elizabeth II, a choice to observe, to preserve, or to reflect rather than to display. Together, they create a portrait of a monarch who understood that jewels are more than objects of beauty. They are instruments of memory, culture, and subtle influence, and that the greatest treasures are often those carefully concealed. Among the treasures of the hidden vault are jewels that defy convention, gems designed not only for beauty but for secrecy, communication, and intellectual engagement. These experimental and coded pieces reveal Elizabeth II's fascination with ingenuity, her appreciation for subtlety, and her understanding that a jewel can serve as both art and instrument. They are pieces she never wore, precisely because their purpose extended beyond mere adornment. One striking example is the cipher necklace, a string of alternating sapphires and diamonds, each stone engraved with microscopic glyphs visible only under magnification. Scholars speculate that these glyphs form a complex code, perhaps a record of private correspondences, dates of significance, or philosophical reflections. Elizabeth reportedly used a magnifying glass to study the necklace in solitude, tracing patterns and symbols as if consulting a tactile journal. Its function was private, its brilliance was secondary. The labyrinth ring is another marvel of experimental design. On its surface, diamonds are set in a spiraling pattern, creating the impression of movement when viewed from different angles. Hidden inside the band is a tiny chamber containing a miniature inscription, visible only with careful inspection. The ring functions both as an optical puzzle and a meditative device. A private tool for reflection and decision-making, Elizabeth never wore it publicly, understanding that its intellectual and symbolic value would be lost in display. Pearls, too, were incorporated into experimental designs. The Aurora strand intersperses small pearls with tiny coloured gemstones, creating patterns that change subtly with light and angle. Some historians suggest it was designed to encode sequences of events, a private calendar, or a mnemonic system. Elizabeth's meticulous arrangement of the strand demonstrates her engagement with the jewels as interactive objects, capable of teaching, reflecting, and preserving memory. Even diamonds and sapphires were sometimes altered for secrecy. The whispering brooch, for instance, contains a series of diamonds cut with hidden micro-facets that reflect light in unique ways, revealing concealed inscriptions only when illuminated at a precise angle. The brooch's subtle brilliance is deceptive. It is both ornament and archive, blending artistry with encoded history. Elizabeth, aware of its delicate function, handled it privately, appreciating the genius embedded in each facet. Some pieces incorporate miniature mechanical elements. The kaleidoscope brooch features interlocking gears beneath its gemstone lattice, allowing patterns to shift as the wearer tilts it. Though visually mesmerizing, it was never worn publicly. The effect was meant to be studied and appreciated in quiet contemplation. The design reflects Elizabeth's curiosity about light, motion, and perception, a jewel that functions as both art and thought experiment. Even seemingly mundane objects hide coded secrets. Small studs, pins, and hairpieces were sometimes constructed to hold micro-engraved messages or symbols known only to Elizabeth. These items were not intended for display, but for personal reflection, secret communication, or archival purposes. They reveal a monarch deeply aware that subtlety can be more enduring than spectacle. In essence, the vault's experimental and coded jewels transform the concept of jewellery from decoration to medium. They are repositories of knowledge, memory, and intention, accessible only to those capable of understanding their design. Elizabeth's engagement with these pieces demonstrates her intellectual curiosity, her appreciation for hidden complexity, and her profound understanding that beauty and meaning need not be visible to be powerful. These jewels, like the vault itself, exist at the intersection of art, science, and secrecy. They illustrate a queen who recognized that the true value of a gem is not merely in its sparkle, but in its ability to preserve thought, encode memory, and reflect both the visible and invisible dimensions of human experience. Some jewels in Elizabeth II's hidden vault transcend beauty, artistry, or historical value. They carry an air of the mystical, the symbolic, and the protective. Though few public records acknowledge these properties, palace legends and private notes hint that the Queen understood and respected the latent power within certain stones. These were jewels she never wore, not from fear, but from reverence. The Guardian sapphire is among the most famous of these pieces. Deep blue, flawless, and unusually large, it is rumored to have been mined in a remote Himalayan region and gifted to the Queen as a protective talisman. According to anecdotal accounts, the sapphire was thought to shield its keeper from misfortune or unseen danger. Elizabeth reportedly kept it in a velvet-lined drawer, observing it quietly during periods of uncertainty. Its value, she understood, lay not in display, but in its symbolic presence, a silent protector in her private contemplation. The Phoenix ruby carries a legend of rebirth and resilience. Passed down through European courts, this ruby was believed to bring renewal and fortitude to those who possessed it. Elizabeth never adorned herself with it at public events. Instead, it remained in the vault, a jewel of meditation and introspection. It symbolized not only personal resilience but also the endurance of the monarchy itself, a reminder that legacy requires patience, prudence, and an understanding of history's cycles. Pearls in the mystical collection often signified clarity, wisdom, and emotional grounding. The moonlit strand, a string of silvery pearls with a subtle luminescence, was said to help its possessor navigate difficult decisions, especially in matters of family and state. Elizabeth reportedly touched the pearls in private moments, drawing comfort and reflection from their smooth surfaces. Unlike ceremonial pearls, these were tools of introspection, connecting her to intuition and the rhythms of time. Some jewels combined mystical properties with historical symbolism. The crescent brooch, a small crescent-shaped diamond set in platinum, was thought to encourage discretion and discernment. Its shape reflected the phases of the moon, representing cycles of influence and the careful balance between visibility and secrecy. Elizabeth's choice to store it privately rather than wear it underscores her understanding that some powers are best preserved in silence. Even smaller items, like studs, hairpins, or miniature rings, carried symbolic weight. The hidden crosspin, a tiny gold piece set with a single garnet, was rumored to protect against miscommunication or betrayal. Though easily overlooked by an observer, it was treasured in the vault, an object that encoded faith, vigilance, and subtle guidance. These small jewels functioned almost like talismans, quietly influencing the Queen's sense of security and awareness. The mystical dimension of the vault suggests that Elizabeth II saw jewellery as a medium connecting past, present, and future, as well as tangible and intangible forces. Stones were not only ornaments, they were companions, guides, and symbols of the unseen patterns shaping life and history. By preserving them privately, she maintained their integrity, ensuring that their significance would endure undiluted by display, speculation, or public attention. In sum, the mystical and symbolic jewels of the hidden vault reflect a sovereign attuned to both material and spiritual resonance. They reveal Elizabeth's awareness that power is multifaceted. It encompasses history, discretion, intellect, and, at times, quiet protection. The Queen's careful stewardship transformed these objects into silent partners, imbued with meaning beyond their physical brilliance. Through these mystical gems, the hidden vault becomes more than a repository of wealth. It is a sanctuary of insight, reflection, and subtle influence, a space where the unseen, the symbolic, and the extraordinary converge. The jewels she never wore are witnesses not only to her reign, but to her understanding of the deeper forces, human, historical, and perhaps mystical, that shape the course of a life devoted to duty, reflection, and legacy. To truly understand the hidden vault, one must step back from individual jewels and consider the collection as a unified experience. The Queen's curation transforms it from a mere repository of gemstones into a multidimensional archive, a convergence of memory, artistry, power, and reflection. Each layer, grand ceremonial pieces, intimate personal treasures, experimental creations, and mystical stones, interacts with the others, creating a living narrative of Elizabeth II's reign, her intellect, and her private life. The vault structure itself reflects deliberate intention. Stones of great public or historical significance are arranged alongside intimate keepsakes, emphasizing the interplay between duty and personal reflection. Experimental pieces with hidden inscriptions or optical innovations sit near mystical stones believed to provide insight or protection, linking intellectual curiosity with spiritual contemplation. Even the empty spaces within trays and cases are meaningful, allowing the eye and mind to rest, to consider, and to reflect on absence as much as presence. Viewed in totality, the vault embodies the Queen's philosophy. Restraint, reflection, and foresight are as important as visibility and display. The jewels she never wore are not dormant, they are active participants in her private life. The blood ruby, the memory locket, the labyrinth ring, the phantom sapphire, and the countless tiny studs, pins, and pearls all functioned as guides, companions, and instruments of memory. Together, they form a silent dialogue between sovereign and collection, a conversation that transcends time, witnessing decisions, events, and moments of contemplation invisible to the public eye. The hidden vault also illuminates the Queen's understanding of legacy. By choosing what to display and what to preserve in silence, she ensured that each jewel retained its significance, both material and symbolic. Future generations encountering the vault will inherit not just precious stones, but a narrative of wisdom, discretion, and subtle influence. Elizabeth's curation teaches that the greatest treasures are often those preserved, observed, and understood in quiet reverence rather than worn, exhibited, or publicized. In imagining the experience of the vault, one senses its rhythm, the soft gleam of diamonds, the shifting iridescence of moonstones, the steady luminescence of pearls, the quiet majesty of sapphires and emeralds, and the deliberate placement of each object as if part of a silent orchestra. Every piece communicates, not in words but in presence, symbolism, and history. The vault becomes both a sanctuary and a classroom, teaching patience, discretion, and the enduring value of subtlety. Ultimately, the hidden vault is a reflection of Elizabeth II herself. Disciplined, observant, and deeply thoughtful, she curated her collection with an understanding that objects can hold memory, influence perception, and preserve wisdom across generations. In this quiet, controlled environment, jewels transform into witnesses, guides, and companions, documenting a life lived with care, intellect, and profound foresight. The story of the vault is, in many ways, the story of the Queen's life, complex, layered, measured, and imbued with quiet power. While the world saw only the public face of the monarchy, grand jewels, formal ceremonies, and official appearances, the hidden vault preserved the private dimension of sovereignty, the intellect, emotion, and judgment that guided Elizabeth II through decades of history. It is here, among the jewels she never wore, that the essence of her reign and the depth of her character are most vividly revealed. In the end, the hidden vault is more than a collection of gems. It is a mirror, a chronicle, and a sanctuary, a space where history, artistry, memory, and human insight converge. And through the careful curation of these jewels, Elizabeth II leaves a legacy not only of splendor, but of wisdom, discretion, and the enduring power of the unseen. The hidden vault does not exist only in the past or in the private memory of Elizabeth II. It also projects into the future. Each jewel, pearl, and experimental piece carries lessons and legacies waiting to be interpreted by future generations, heirs, historians, and jewelers alike. The Queen's careful curation ensures that her choices, her restraint, and her insight endure far beyond her lifetime. Heirs may one day explore the vault, encountering layers of meaning embedded in centuries of accumulated treasures. The memory locket, the silent strand, and the labyrinth ring are more than objects. They are didactic tools, exercises in reflection and judgment. The patterns, inscriptions, and subtle symbolism embedded in certain jewels may serve as private lessons, demonstrating how history, duty, and discretion intertwine. The vault becomes a medium through which Elizabeth communicates silently with her successors, emphasizing the importance of careful observation, thoughtfulness, and restraint. Historians approaching the vault will encounter a different narrative, one of power preserved in absence, of beauty interwoven with discretion, and of objects that document as much about the mind that curated them as the history they carry. Every jewel tells a story, not only of its origin, but of the choices that guided its placement, handling, and preservation. By keeping certain pieces unworn, Elizabeth II ensured that their full significance remained untarnished, offering scholars insights into both the monarchy and the personal philosophy of a sovereign who understood the quiet power of silence. Future jewelers and artisans may find inspiration in the vault's experimental designs. Hidden inscriptions, optical innovations, and mechanical elements demonstrate Elizabeth's fascination with the intersection of art, science, and symbolism. These objects are more than decorative. They are exercises in creativity, intellect, and innovation. Generations to come may study these pieces not only for their craftsmanship, but as examples of how beauty and intellect can coexist in the medium of jewellery. The mystical and symbolic jewels, like the guardian sapphire, the phoenix ruby, and the moonlit strand, extend this legacy further. They remind heirs and observers alike that power, insight, and protection can be encoded in objects, and that influence is not always exercised publicly. These pieces serve as subtle reminders that history and human experience are shaped as much by reflection and prudence as by ceremony and spectacle. Ultimately, the vault functions as a bridge between past, present, and future. Elizabeth II's curation emphasizes continuity, discretion, and foresight. Each layer of the vault, personal treasures, legendary stones, experimental designs, and mystical objects, offers lessons in balance between visibility and concealment, display and contemplation, public duty and private reflection. The jewels she never wore are, in this sense, timeless. They document not only the reign of a monarch, but the enduring wisdom of one who understood that true value often lies in what is preserved rather than revealed. As generations encounter the vault, they may never fully grasp every secret or symbolic message, yet they will sense the deliberate intelligence, care, and reflection that underpin each object. The hidden vault remains a space of dialogue across time, between Elizabeth II and those who come after her, between history and imagination, and between the visible brilliance of jewels and the invisible weight of their meaning. Through this collection, Elizabeth leaves a subtle but profound inheritance, a legacy of thoughtfulness, prudence, and the enduring power of the unseen. The jewels she never wore are more than treasures. They are teachers, witnesses, and silent companions, ensuring that her influence continues long after her reign, echoing through history in light, reflection, and memory. The hidden vault has long been a source of fascination, not only for historians and jewelers, but also for palace insiders, journalists, and storytellers. Beyond the meticulously documented jewels lies a web of rumors, myths, and whispered stories, tales that speak of secret ceremonies, symbolic gestures, and private rituals surrounding the Queen's most treasured objects. These stories, though sometimes unverifiable, illuminate the aura of reverence and mystery that Elizabeth II cultivated around the vault. One recurring tale concerns the moonlit sapphire, a jewel rumored to be central to a private nightly ritual. According to palace law, Elizabeth would sometimes hold the stone beneath the soft glow of candlelight, allowing its subtle iridescence to cast shifting patterns across the walls. Observers suggested that she used the sapphire to meditate on personal and political decisions, engaging in a silent dialogue with history, memory, and responsibility. The ritual itself was never confirmed, but it underscores the Queen's engagement with jewels as more than decoration. They were instruments of reflection, almost ceremonial in their private use. Other myths involve hidden alignments within the vault. Some stories suggest that certain jewels were arranged according to astrological patterns or significant dates in royal history. Pearls, diamonds, and coloured gemstones were reportedly grouped to reflect cycles of the moon, anniversaries, or the sequence of family events. While no official record confirms this, the narrative illustrates the belief that Elizabeth II treated her jewels as tools of symbolic meaning, connecting the present with the past and perhaps even guiding her contemplation of the future. The cloak diamond is central to another whispered story. Rumours claim it was occasionally placed near objects representing international diplomacy, as if to act as a silent witness to decisions with global consequences. The legend suggests that Elizabeth believed in the subtle influence of objects, that a jewel could carry moral, symbolic, or psychological weight within private deliberations. Even if purely anecdotal, such stories capture the essence of the vault as a space of quiet power. Small, almost invisible pieces also feature in palace myths. Tiny hairpins, studs, and rings with hidden inscriptions were said to serve as conduits for private communication, messages exchanged only between the Queen and select aides or family members. Some speculate that these miniature objects held encoded notes, reminders, or even moral guidance, functioning as discrete instruments of memory and counsel. They reinforce the idea that the vault was not only a collection of material wealth, but also a repository of knowledge, intention, and influence. Legends extend to the mystical jewels as well. The guardian sapphire, the phoenix ruby, and the moonlit strand are said to have protective qualities or symbolic significance. Some palace rumours suggest that the Queen consulted them during moments of uncertainty or used them to inspire courage, clarity, or insight. While these accounts border on myth, they highlight the deep respect Elizabeth had for the intangible qualities of her treasures, the sense that jewels could reflect, guide, or even safeguard the human spirit. Ultimately, these myths and whispered stories reinforce the vault's dual nature. It is at once a physical repository of gems and a symbolic landscape of reflection, discretion, and power. The tales may exaggerate or romanticize certain aspects, but they reflect the perception that Elizabeth II's relationship with her jewels was unique, personal, and almost sacred. The Queen's decision to keep so many treasures unworn ensured that their stories, whether documented, legendary, or whispered, remained intact, preserving both mystery and significance. In the hidden vault, history, myth, and ritual coexist. The jewels she never wore are silent witnesses, participating in ceremonies invisible to the public eye, shaping perception and thought through their presence alone. These legends remind us that power and meaning are often subtle, operating behind closed doors, and that the greatest treasures are sometimes those reserved for contemplation rather than display. The hidden vault is more than a collection of gemstones. It is a multi-dimensional space where artistry, history, and emotion intersect. Each jewel, carefully curated and preserved, represents a nexus of craftsmanship, legacy, and personal resonance. Elizabeth II approached her collection not as a casual owner, but as a connoisseur, historian, and philosopher of jewellery, understanding that the value of a piece extends far beyond its monetary worth. Artistry in the vault manifests in both grand and subtle forms. Pieces such as the Aurora diadem or the kaleidoscope brooch showcase technical brilliance and innovative design. Diamonds, sapphires, and emeralds are cut and arranged to maximize visual impact, yet their placement often carries hidden layers of meaning, reflecting family lineage, historical events, or private reflections. Experimental pieces with hidden inscriptions or miniature mechanisms demonstrate that Elizabeth saw jewels as more than decoration. They were tools for intellectual engagement, puzzles of light and form designed to provoke thought and reflection. History is embedded in every gemstone. Many stones predate Elizabeth II herself, carrying the weight of centuries of royal ownership, diplomacy, and human experience. The phantom sapphire, the blood ruby, and other legendary stones serve as living witnesses to events that shaped European and global history. Elizabeth's decision to keep some of these jewels unworn was a deliberate act of preservation. She ensured that their stories, fraught with triumph and tragedy, remained intact. By leaving them in silence, she allowed each gem to act as a historical document, encoding memory and significance for future generations. Emotion, perhaps the most intimate layer of the vault, is captured in pieces like the memory locket, the secret strand, and the nightingale brooch. These jewels were never intended for public display. They carried personal meaning, family memories, milestones, or private reflections. In handling these objects, Elizabeth engaged with them as companions, drawing comfort, insight, or meditation from their presence. Pearls, tiny charms, and hidden gemstones often functioned as tactile diaries, encoding personal experiences in a language of touch and observation. The interplay of art, history, and emotion gives the vault its profound significance. The jewels are simultaneously objects of aesthetic wonder, historical testimony, and private introspection. Elizabeth II's curatorial choices, what to display, what to preserve, and what to leave untouched, demonstrate her understanding that true value is multidimensional. A jewel is most powerful when it operates on multiple levels, as a symbol, as a witness, and as a medium for thought. Even mundane-looking objects carry weight. Tiny hairpins, studs, and pins often have hidden inscriptions or symbolic meaning. They are subtle, almost invisible, yet they reveal the Queen's attention to detail, foresight, and appreciation for the intimate power of objects. In these miniature jewels, artistry, history, and emotion converge, creating layers of significance visible only to those who approach the vault with patience, curiosity, and respect. In this way, the hidden vault becomes a repository not merely of material wealth, but of human experience. It reflects Elizabeth II's deep understanding that jewellery is a medium through which beauty, intellect, and emotion can coexist. Each piece becomes a story, a lesson, and a silent companion, a testament to the Queen's discernment, foresight, and capacity for reflection. Through the vault, Elizabeth demonstrates that the greatest treasures are not always those worn or displayed, but those preserved thoughtfully, engaged with quietly, and allowed to accumulate layers of meaning over time. The jewels she never wore remain active participants in the ongoing dialogue between history, artistry, and human insight, ensuring that the Queen's legacy endures in brilliance, silence, and reflection. To enter the hidden vault is to step into a carefully orchestrated interplay of light, texture, and reflection, a space where the physical qualities of each jewel are amplified by their surroundings. Elizabeth II's arrangement of the collection demonstrates her profound understanding of how environment shapes perception. The vault is not merely storage, it is a theatre of subtle sensation designed to engage the eye, mind, and spirit. Soft, indirect lighting illuminates the jewels without overwhelming them. Diamonds and sapphires catch glimmers that shift with the viewer's movement, while pearls and moonstones exude a quiet luminescence, revealing depth only upon careful observation. Velvet-lined drawers, satin trays, and polished wooden cases are not merely practical, they create a tactile resonance that complements the stone's visual brilliance. The Queen recognized that texture, like light, contributes to perception. The cool smoothness of a pearl, the sharp facets of a diamond, or the subtle irregularity of an antique emerald all convey meaning beyond sight alone. Movement within the vault transforms each jewel. As one passes, light refracts through diamonds in patterns that seem to narrate their history. Emeralds reflect deep green shadows across trays, hinting at lineage and legacy. Pearls, arranged in subtle gradients of size and hue, suggest rhythm and continuity, echoing cycles of time and family heritage. Elizabeth's curation ensures that each stone is not static. It interacts with environment and observer, revealing layers of beauty and significance gradually, inviting meditation and reflection. The vault's arrangement also encourages narrative engagement. Certain groups of jewels are displayed together to emphasize relationships, historical significance, or emotional resonance. A brooch may sit beside a matching pendant. A string of pearls may accompany a ring with shared provenance. This deliberate choreography turns the vault into a sensory map of memory and history. Even the empty spaces are intentional, giving pause and perspective, emphasizing the importance of absence as much as presence. Sound, though minimal, contributes subtly to the experience. The faint click of drawers closing, the whisper of velvet against stone, or the soft echo in the vaulted chamber all heighten awareness. Silence, in particular, is integral. It allows the jewels to speak through their interaction with light, shadow, and texture. Observers report a sense of reverence and focus, as if each gem carries both history and personality, waiting for careful attention to reveal its story. Texture, too, is a form of communication. The Queen's handling of jewels, turning a gem in her fingers, feeling the grain of gold or the smooth surface of a pearl, demonstrates that touch conveys meaning. In the hidden vault, tactile engagement becomes an extension of thought, reinforcing reflection and understanding. The vault becomes a sensory meditation, with each jewel acting as both object and interlocutor. Ultimately, the sensory design of the vault amplifies its intellectual and emotional impact. Light refracts through gems to tell their stories. Texture communicates continuity and care. Arrangement creates dialogue across history, artistry, and personal significance. Elizabeth II's careful orchestration ensures that the jewels she never wore are not inert objects, but living participants in a quiet narrative of reflection, legacy, and understanding. In this space, the vault itself becomes a jewel, a cohesive composition of brilliance, shadow, texture, and meaning. Every visitor, every observer, and every careful eye experiences not only the material splendor of the collection, but the depth of intention behind it. Through light and touch, Elizabeth's philosophy is embedded in the environment. Beauty is amplified by restraint. History is preserved through contemplation, and the unseen can hold more power than the visible. Within the quiet, velvet-lined confines of the hidden vault, Elizabeth II is said to have experienced moments of deep private reflection, times when the jewels themselves became companions in contemplation. Unlike ceremonial occasions, these were unobserved rituals, intimate and deliberate, where the Queen engaged not with the outside world, but with memory, choice, and the passage of time. The memory locket, for instance, may have served as a tactile portal into personal recollections. Encasing a miniature portrait or a lock of hair, the locket allowed the Queen to trace family connections, moments of love, or historic events with her fingers. By handling it privately, Elizabeth honored the delicate intersection of memory and material, acknowledging that the physical presence of a jewel can catalyze emotional clarity and understanding. Each turn of the locket or slight tilt of a pendant could bring forward insights or evoke reflections too nuanced to be expressed aloud. The labyrinth ring and other experimental jewels served a similar purpose. Designed with intricate pathways, hidden inscriptions, or optical effects, they functioned almost as puzzles, tools to sharpen the mind, to encourage deliberation, or to explore complex decisions metaphorically. In the vault, Elizabeth could engage with them quietly, using their hidden intricacies as aids to meditation, judgment, or even problem-solving observers. Reported that these objects seemed almost to respond to her contemplation, as if crafted to reward patience, attention, and thoughtful engagement. Pearls, often understated, were also instruments of reflection. The silent strand and the moonlit strand allowed the Queen to measure time, mark personal milestones, and assess the rhythm of her life. Their tactile weight and smooth texture served as a form of meditative engagement. By arranging, touching, or simply observing the pearls, she could process decisions, recall lessons, or anticipate challenges. Unlike other objects in the vault, these were intimate companions, modest in appearance, profound in effect. Even the mystical jewels, the guardian sapphire, the phoenix ruby, or the crescent brooch, were part of private reflection beyond their symbolic or talismanic qualities. They may have offered Elizabeth a way to anchor her attention, to meditate on resilience, protection, and foresight. By holding, observing, or arranging these stones, she engaged with the subtle dynamics of influence, history, and human behavior. Their presence reinforced the principle that power is exercised not only through action, but through careful contemplation and awareness. The vault itself contributed to this meditative atmosphere. Its soft lighting, deliberate arrangement, and quiet resonance created a sanctuary where Elizabeth could consider her decisions free from public gaze. Each jewel, carefully chosen and positioned, offered cues for thought: a diamond reflecting light across a tray, a pearl arranged beside a small emerald, or an experimental ring whose facets caught the eye only at certain angles. Together, they formed an environment conducive to reflection, subtly guiding perception and focus. In these private moments, the jewels became more than possessions. They were teachers, witnesses, and companions. They facilitated engagement with history, family, duty, and personal ethics, allowing the Queen to navigate the complexities of life and monarchy with both discretion and depth. The vault, in essence, became a theatre for the mind, a space where thought, memory, and emotion could be illuminated by the silent brilliance of the jewels she never wore. Through these meditations, Elizabeth II demonstrated the profound potential of objects to shape consciousness. The hidden jewels, preserved in silence, provided clarity, continuity, and counsel. They are reminders that reflection, subtlety, and foresight can be as potent as any display of power, and that the true treasure of a collection may reside not in public spectacle, but in the quiet contemplation it enables. The hidden vault serves as a silent counterpoint to Elizabeth II's public life. While the world saw ceremonial grandeur, state jewels, and meticulously choreographed appearances, the vault held the private dimension of her reign, a realm where reflection, discretion, and contemplation guided her judgment. The jewels she never wore became tools to navigate the tension between public duty and personal insight. Elizabeth understood that monarchy operates on multiple levels: spectacle and ceremony, negotiation and diplomacy, symbolism and legacy. In the vault, these layers were distilled into tangible form. Each piece carried lessons, histories, or symbolic meaning, allowing the Queen to engage with abstract concepts, loyalty, continuity, and responsibility through material objects. A brooch might remind her of a delicate alliance. A strand of pearls might evoke patience or foresight. The act of handling or observing a jewel became a ritual of preparation, reflection, and subtle guidance. Diplomatic pressures and public expectation were ever present in her reign. The vault allowed Elizabeth to step away from these pressures, to consider matters privately before facing the world. Certain experimental pieces, such as the labyrinth ring or the cipher necklace, may have been used as tools to simulate decision-making processes or anticipate outcomes. Their hidden inscriptions and coded designs offered frameworks for understanding complex networks of relationships, domestic, international, and familial. Through them, the Queen could explore consequences, intentions, and possibilities without public scrutiny. Historical jewels further reinforced lessons of continuity and perspective. The blood ruby, the phantom sapphire, and other storied gems reminded Elizabeth of the burdens and rewards of monarchy over centuries. By keeping them unworn, she preserved their symbolic power, connecting past monarchs' choices with her own responsibilities. In this way, the vault functioned as a bridge between centuries, offering wisdom encoded in material form. The private, almost ritualistic use of jewels also reinforced emotional resilience. Objects like the memory locket or the silent strand allowed Elizabeth to maintain connection to family, heritage, and personal memory. These tactile companions provided stability, grounding her in the continuity of her life and reign. They became a medium for emotional clarity, reminding her that even in moments of intense public scrutiny, private reflection could offer perspective, calm, and insight. Through the vault, Elizabeth II enacted a philosophy of governance informed by contemplation and discretion. The jewels were not merely symbols of wealth or status, they were instruments for cultivating judgment, patience, and foresight. The Queen demonstrated that power is most enduring when exercised with awareness, reflection, and an appreciation of subtlety. Ultimately, the vault exemplifies the synergy between public duty and private reflection. Its carefully curated jewels offered a private universe where history, memory, artistry, and intellect converged. Here, Elizabeth could prepare herself for the visible demands of monarchy while nurturing an inner life of wisdom and balance. The jewels she never wore were silent collaborators, guiding her through the intricate dance of governance and personal responsibility. In this delicate interplay between the public and private, the vault emerges as a testament to Elizabeth II's enduring legacy, a space where thought, reflection, and intention are preserved alongside beauty, creating a profound dialogue across time, history, and the human experience. Elizabeth II's hidden vault is not simply a repository of exquisite stones. It is a reflection of her personal philosophy of preservation, her understanding of legacy, and her meticulous approach to the ethics of collection. Each jewel was curated with attention not only to aesthetics, but to history, memory, and moral responsibility. By leaving so many pieces unworn, she acknowledged that the value of an object is inseparable from the care, intention, and foresight applied to it. Preservation in Elizabeth's approach was multidimensional. She safeguarded physical integrity, diamonds were stored to avoid damage, pearls were handled with caution, and fragile historical pieces were maintained under controlled conditions. But preservation extended beyond material care. She protected narrative integrity, ensuring that each jewel's history, symbolism, and emotional resonance remained intact. To display a jewel publicly without this consideration risked diluting its meaning, converting it into mere spectacle. In this, Elizabeth demonstrated a moral sensitivity to history and heritage, understanding that stewardship involves more than possession, it involves responsibility. Legacy was equally central. The hidden vault functions as an inheritance of thought as much as wealth. Generations to come will inherit not just stones, but stories, lessons, and symbols. The careful separation of personal, mystical, experimental, and ceremonial pieces ensures that each layer communicates a distinct message. The Guardian Sapphire teaches vigilance and resilience. The Labyrinth Ring encourages patience and reflection. The Silent Strand evokes continuity and mindfulness. By curating the collection in this manner, Elizabeth encoded guidance for successors, ensuring that the vault serves as both inheritance and mentorship. The ethics of collection are evident in her approach to acquisition, commissioning, and preservation. Elizabeth II did not amass jewels indiscriminately. Her selections were purposeful, often symbolic, and chosen with an awareness of provenance. Historical pieces were respected, ancestral stones were conserved, and experimental commissions were crafted with intentionality. She understood that collecting is not merely about accumulation, but about understanding, stewardship, and the creation of meaning. Each object is part of a moral and intellectual ecosystem. Reinforcing her commitment to thoughtful curation, time, too, plays a central role. The vault embodies Elizabeth's appreciation for temporality, the idea that significance deepens with careful preservation. Some jewels, like the phantom sapphire or the blood ruby, carry centuries of history. Others, like the memory locket or the secret strand, evolve in meaning with personal and familial experience. By withholding these objects from public display, she allowed them to mature, their value enriched not by exposure, but by reflection, handling, and consideration over time. In essence, the hidden vault exemplifies a philosophy where beauty, morality, and wisdom intersect. The jewels she never wore are not inert. They are active instruments of ethical reflection, historical preservation, and legacy building. Elizabeth II demonstrates that true stewardship requires restraint, discernment, and respect for the enduring narrative embedded within each object. The vault, in this light, becomes a testament to a sovereign who understood that power, history, and human experience are intertwined with care, attention, and foresight. Its jewels are guides, witnesses, and partners, each contributing to a meditation on permanence, responsibility, and the ethical treatment of beauty and history. Through her philosophy of preservation, Elizabeth II ensured that the hidden vault remains not only a treasure trove of rare stones, but a living reflection of thought, intention, and moral stewardship, an inheritance of both beauty and wisdom, silently enduring across generations. The hidden vault is not merely a repository of wealth or history, it is a repository of emotion. Each jewel, pearl, or experimental piece carries layers of feeling, grief, joy, triumph, reflection, that Elizabeth II may have encoded through careful placement, handling, or preservation. These are the jewels she never wore, not out of indifference, but out of respect for the intimate stories they held, each acting as a private vessel for personal and familial experience. Consider the memory locket, its miniature portraits or delicate mementos, encapsulating moments of deep affection, mourning, or remembrance. In handling the locket, the Queen could trace the contours of memory, revisit the faces of loved ones, or reflect on moments of loss. Its presence in the vault allowed her to honor emotion without display, acknowledging that some experiences are too intimate to be shared publicly, yet too important to be forgotten. Pearls and strands, like the silent strand and the moonlit strand, were similarly emotive. Their subtle gradations of size, hue, or alignment may reflect personal milestones, family connections, or passages of time. In their quiet luminescence, Elizabeth could measure joy and sorrow, continuity and change. The tactile experience of holding, arranging, or simply observing the pearls becomes a form of emotional meditation, bridging memory and presence. Certain jewels seem almost designed to evoke triumph or resilience. The Phoenix ruby, symbolic of rebirth, may have accompanied moments of personal or national challenge. Though never worn publicly, its placement in the vault served as a reminder of endurance and renewal. Similarly, the labyrinth ring and other experimental pieces may have provided intellectual stimulation that accompanied emotional processing, guiding thought and reflection through the interplay of light, hidden inscriptions, and tactile engagement. Even legendary jewels carry emotion. The phantom sapphire or the blood ruby, connected to historical trials, alliances, or betrayals, remind the Queen of both human frailty and perseverance. Their careful preservation allows Elizabeth to reflect on the lessons of history and her own experiences, drawing emotional insight from the past without the spectacle of public display. In this way, the vault functions as a space for emotional calibration, an environment where feeling, memory, and judgment intersect. Mystical and symbolic pieces also engage emotion in subtle ways. The guardian sapphire or the crescent brooch may have provided comfort, reassurance, or perspective during periods of uncertainty. By keeping them unworn, Elizabeth treated these stones as companions in emotional and spiritual contemplation, acknowledging their silent power to influence thought and sentiment. In totality, the vault becomes a landscape of emotion, a private theatre where jewels encode grief, joy, contemplation, and resilience. Elizabeth II's careful curation ensures that each object retains its emotional resonance, offering insight into the Queen not only as a monarch, but as a human being navigating a life of duty, reflection, and intimate experience. Through these unworn jewels, Elizabeth communicates across time that emotion need not be broadcast to be valid, that reflection can transform grief into wisdom, and that beauty is enriched when it carries the weight of personal and collective memory. The hidden vault, in preserving these layered narratives, becomes both sanctuary and storybook, a testament to the enduring human capacity to encode feeling in objects and to honor emotion with discretion, care, and reverence. Elizabeth II's hidden vault is more than a physical collection. It is a unique narrative language, a dialogue between objects, history, and consciousness. Each jewel, pearl, or experimental piece is a sentence, every arrangement a paragraph, and the vault as a whole a silent epic spanning centuries. In preserving and curating these jewels, the Queen crafted a story that speaks without words, conveying meaning through light, texture, placement, and history. The narrative begins with heritage. Legendary stones such as the blood ruby and the phantom sapphire carry centuries of story encoded in their provenance, cut, and placement. By leaving these jewels unworn, Elizabeth preserved their voice, allowing the past to communicate across generations. The jewels tell of alliances, betrayals, victories, and losses, events embedded not in text, but in material form. In this sense, each gem functions as a historian, recording both human achievement and folly. The second layer of narrative is personal reflection. Jewels like the memory locket, the silent strand, and the moonlit strand encode private experiences, grief, joy, triumph, or contemplation. Their arrangement in the vault is deliberate, creating an emotional and intellectual rhythm. By interacting with these objects, Elizabeth engaged in a conversation with her own life, assessing choices, contemplating consequences, and drawing lessons from personal and historical precedent. The vault becomes a dialogue between self and collection, a space in which thought and material form intertwine. Experimental and coded pieces add complexity to the language. The labyrinth ring, cipher necklace, and other objects with hidden inscriptions, optical illusions, or miniature mechanisms introduce metaphor and puzzle into the narrative. They demand patience, attention, and reflection, transforming observation into active participation. Each interaction is a reading of history and philosophy, a decoding of intention, and a recognition of the subtle interplay between intellect and material artistry. Mystical and symbolic jewels provide another dimension of meaning. The guardian sapphire, phoenix ruby, and crescent brooch introduce metaphorical and spiritual content into the narrative. They are punctuation marks of resilience, foresight, and protection, reminding the observer that the narrative is not purely material, it is also symbolic, moral, and emotional. The Queen's choice to handle these pieces privately ensures that the messages embedded within them remain undisturbed by public interpretation, retaining their potency across time. Ultimately, the vault's narrative language is multi-layered and immersive. It communicates through history, emotion, symbolism, and craftsmanship simultaneously. Its syntax is subtle. A line of pearls may indicate continuity, a hidden inscription may encode guidance, a diamond sparkle may evoke triumph or resilience. The grammar of the vault, the arrangement, preservation, and interrelation of objects creates a coherent story of the Queen's reign, character, and philosophy. Through this language, Elizabeth II transforms the act of collecting into a dialogue across time. The jewels she never wore speak not through words, but through presence, reflection, and resonance. They teach lessons about restraint, foresight, history, and human emotion. They demonstrate that narrative can exist in material form, that meaning can be preserved without public display, and that silence and contemplation can carry as much weight as speech and spectacle. The hidden vault, in this light, is a living manuscript, a story written in gold, gemstones, pearls, and craftsmanship. Each unworn jewel is a carefully chosen word, a deliberate phrase, or a symbolic metaphor, and together they form a coherent, profound, and enduring narrative, a testament to the Queen's intellect, foresight, and the subtle artistry of her private world.